It's amazing to see a monk speak at a conference like this. Look at what the world has come to. 3 weeks ago, I was in Las Vegas, invited to speak at another conference, and I began the talk by saying, it took me to become a monk to come to Vegas. Um, when I walked into my first investment banking interview at Bank of America, my interviewer handed me a sheet of paper which said, investment banking is a business where thieves and pimps run freely on the corridors and the few good men die the death of a dog. And in big, bold letters at the bottom it said, there is also a negative side. My interviewer, who was wearing a cowboy hat, looked straight into my eyes and asked me my first interview question, which one of the three are you? I wanted to be on Wall Street since I was in 9th grade. And I also, at the same time, decided that I wanted to own a yellow convertible and a blue motorboat. It was very, very specific about the colors. So I really made my way through all those interviews, and I took to my heart every single tip that my seniors in business school gave me on what fit the mold of an investment banker. The steel strap watches, the Brooks Brothers shirts, the square-tip shoes, and finally landed up with an offer for Bank of America in investment banking. And I felt like I was on the top of the world. A dream had been realized, a dream that I was holding very dear to my heart for 15 years. And that yellow convertible and blue motorboat were very much within reach. And then came my first big test. In an environment where every junior associate's performance was very closely monitored and very quickly labeled, I was the only person in a class of 74 associates to fail the first major financial services exam, the Series 7. And as I walked out of the examination center that evening, I waited for all my colleagues to leave because I really did not want to see anyone. I did not want to be seen by anyone. My BlackBerry was buzzing. My colleagues were trying to get in touch with me to see how I'd performed, and I did not dare to pick it up. There was a lot of traffic noise out in the street, but the noise inside was much louder. I had this overwhelming sense of failure, that I would be rejected by my coworkers, that I would be considered incompetent, incapable, that I wouldn't be staffed on those star projects, that I would be laid off. And as I was walking back home, desperate to save my face, I told myself, I'm just going to go back into work the next day and say I passed the exam. No one is really going to know about the results of the exam because only the HR gets the results of the test. So pacifying myself that way, I went to bed that evening, but I couldn't fall asleep. Something really kept bothering me, and I tried my best to distract myself. I picked up a book, I went online to watch a movie, but I just couldn't shake the feeling off. And so I decided to stay with it, see what it is. And it was just so uncomfortable. I felt that my emotions were coming in the way of my efficiency, that they were slowing me down. But I just decided to stay with it for a little longer and see what came out of it. And for the first time in my life, I actually recognized that in my rush to achieve constantly, I had gone so far away from who I truly am, my authentic self. I had become a compulsive achievement machine, ready to wear as many masks as were needed in order to get the validation from people that I deemed were valuable. And in the course of that, just completely forgot myself and who I am and what I really want to do. And as I stayed with that experience for a little longer, what seemed like eternity and really painful, the clarity descended. I went back into work the next day, and of course all my colleagues were very eagerly waiting because I hadn't picked up my phone the previous evening to find out how I had performed in the exam. And so they all surrounded me, and I just said, I failed. And there was a moment of silence. No one really knew what to say. And that silence pierced through every single pore of my body. A few consolations floated, a couple of seniors said it's going to be really difficult for me from that point on. And the crowd dispersed. And as I went back and sat in my seat, for the first time in my life, I experienced a sense of lightness that I'd never experienced before. Like a big burden had been lifted off my chest. I came in touch with my own vulnerability, and there was a light-hearted joy in the acceptance of that vulnerability. I felt the relief of having to live without a mask and felt the confidence that I can be myself.